Welcome to the slide presentation on critical reading for the scholar practitioner.
How do you read? Studiously, or are you usually relaxed or bored? Do you often feel overwhelmed or exhausted when you read?
Most men have learned to read to serve a paltry convenience, as they have learned to cipher in order to keep accounts and not be cheated in trade, but of reading as a noble intellectual exercise they know little or nothing. Yet this only is reading, in a high sense, not that which lulls us as a luxury and suffers the nobler faculties to sleep the while, but what we have to stand on tiptoe to read and devote our most alert and wakeful hours to. Henry David Thoreau, Walden. When you read as a scholar, you must summarize the content of what you read, you must analyze the argument presented by the author, and you must assess the significance and meaning of the author's words. In short, as Thoreau says, you must read on your tiptoes.
Metacognition refers to higher-order thinking which involves active control over the cognitive processes engaged in learning. Activities such as planning how to approach a given learning task, monitoring comprehension, and evaluating progress toward the completion of a task are metacognitive in nature.
Critical reading and critical thinking work together. Critical thinking allows us to monitor our understanding as we read. If we sense that assertions are ridiculous or irresponsible, critical thinking, we examine the text more closely to test our understanding, critical reading. Conversely, critical thinking depends on critical reading. You can think critically about a text only if you have understood it.
Now, let's look at critical reading in more detail. It consists of 5 processes. Asking questions. Making connections to other readings, experiences, and ideas. Identifying the importance of what the author is writing. Assess the validity of the author's reasoning and evidence. And summarizing critically what you have read. An annotation is not a simple description of what you have read, like a book report, but a critical analysis. The first 2 steps constitute active reading, reading on your tiptoes. To be an active reader, you must question what you read. Some questions will help you clarify the meaning of the text. Other questions may occur to you as you read, raising issues that go beyond the text. And still other questions may linger or recur throughout your reading. It is important to ask all 3 types of questions, making note of them as you read. It is also important to make connections as you read. You might see a connection with other scholarly writing, or with primary sources. You might see connections with your own professional experience. Or, you might see connections to issues of the day as identified in the media. When you make these connections, be sure to write them down and to carefully cite or describe them. This will be useful to you later when you are drafting your own writing. We now turn to the remaining processes involved with critical reading. How do we identify what is important in a text when we read it?
What was your purpose when you read the article? It is important to have a purpose clearly identified before you read the article. This will help you capture the information you need.
The 4th step in critical reading is to assess the validity of the text. For example, what assumptions does the author make? Does the author provide credible evidence? Is the methodology sound, logical, and unbiased? Get used to these questions. You will be asked them by the faculty regarding your writing. A scholarly community is based on this type of critical analysis. The 5th step in critical reading is to summarize the article critically. Prepare annotations for journal articles, in print or online, rather than for books or large monographs. Select a wide variety of journals. Select scholarly articles. Carefully consider what articles should be included in your personal annotated bibliography, your reading asset library. Rather than highlight as you go, read chunks of text that are large enough to contain complete thoughts or arguments. And then return to identify what is important. Base what is important on both internal and external criteria. What is the key to the author's argument and what is key to your purpose for reading the article? Your critical annotation should begin with a critical summary of the article, include a critical analysis of the research methodology, and end with a critical analysis of the results and conclusions that the author reports.
You should now pause the presentation and read the assigned article by Riley, Gallagher-Lepak, and Killian. When you have read the article, proceed to the next slide.
Summarize the major themes of the journal article. Describe the research problem being addressed by the authors. Describe and discuss the relationships among the research problem, the research questions, and the researcher's hypotheses. Describe the specific research methods used. Go beyond just stating whether a qualitative or quantitative model was used. Describe whether the author used a sample, and how the sample was determined. Describe the variables or functions measured and whether these variables or functions were appropriate for the study. Discuss whether the data collection process and data analyses were done properly. Reference related statistics, if used in the study. If an article does not have an identifiable research methodology, state that there is no formal research methodology and describe the basis upon which the author forms the conclusions or arguments stated. Summarize the results and conclusions of the article. Assess whether the research results support the conclusions reached by the authors. Discuss any potential threats to the validity or generalizability of the results. And finally, discuss how these results either support or do not support your own research. Before going to the next slide, take a few minutes to write down a short annotation of the Me and My Computer article. Use the 2 example annotations provided in this week's assigned readings for reference regarding the proper structure and format of this annotation. There is no right or wrong answer for this assignment. It depends on your purpose and scholarly judgment. Your annotation will be the first item in your personal annotated bibliography file, which will grow throughout your doctoral program to support your dissertation research and scholarly development. When you are done, continue with this presentation. It has been fun working with you on this very important skill of critical reading. During the remaining seminars of this course you will be asked to submit additional annotations as assignments and to place them in your annotated bibliography file. You will use articles that are assigned for the seminars, other articles which appear on the reference list in the syllabus, or find articles that interest you through the library databases. You will receive feedback on these so that by the end of the course, you should be very proficient at annotating what you read. You will also be asked to submit annotations in other courses during the first year and to write a comprehensive essay at the end of the year, which summarizes your learning. Your annotated articles will serve as the scholarly sources that support your conclusions. Through this process you will master the skill of doing a literature review, critical to scholarly writing, and accumulate a personal library which will support your work in the 2nd and 3rd year of the program. Remember, read on your tiptoes.